Well, I think, certainly the closing of consulates is significant. This is an upping of the ante on both sides. We have not seen closing of consulates between the US and China in the 40 years since diplomatic relations were restored. This is not like Russia, where we have normally seen, journalists expelled and visa bans and consulates closed. So this is different. It's definitely notable, and I think it speaks to the toxic atmosphere and the fact that the relationship is really at a low. But I think the thing to watch is not so much the consulate closures and what might happen next, but the first point is China has chosen a pretty restrained response to all the increase in U.S. rhetoric and actions over the past months. They've rarely met and certainly not exceeded in reaction. So I think they're biding their time. They, I think, likely expect a change in U.S. government potentially in November. And so they, I think, are just being somewhat thoughtful in how they are choosing to respond.
What's the end game here for the United States, in your opinion?
Well, I guess it depends on what happens with the election. I mean, the Trump campaign clearly is keen to be tough on China. That was a very popular 2016 campaign theme. It's been the one issue right now in the United States that's held as the main issue that is bipartisan. People want to feel like we're getting tough on China. And so that's a popular campaign theme. Certainly he'll return again and again to it before November. I think the issue to watch is what happens after the election. And even if, Joe Biden wins, the push from the U.S. on China is not going to change. There's still quite a strong sense of wanting to rebalance that relationship, although certainly the style and tone will be different. And the challenge for China will be the U.S., if in a Biden administration, will do it in a much more multilateral way with international alliances, which will be more of a challenge for China.
And Angela, it's Sam here. You say China's responses have been relatively measured, but what sort of impacts do you think that these step-by-step measures will have on the broader trade war, but also this technology war that we are seeing brewing between the US and China?
Well, it definitely makes things more complicated for Chinese businesses and also foreign businesses, not just American ones. And I think the thing to watch, certainly, as these things continue to happen, it just makes the business environment that much more complicated. And the thing to watch is, again, not what China's response would be as it relates to closing consulates, but really watch what that environment will be for foreign businesses in China. The challenge, I think, will be the legal and regulatory environment. China spent the last year or so refining, things like the cybersecurity law and other regulatory issues that they could, if they chose to, they could make life quite difficult for businesses there. And that's what businesses need to watch for. And they need to assess their risks, not based on headline news, but based on where they're exposed from a regulatory perspective. Do they have everything in place they need to have in place to be operating in that market?
And picking up on that, I mean, is there a winner or a loser in the end?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think certainly one of the losers is business, because I do think it gets just more and more challenging. Every new regulation or every tit for tat that happens on either side causes so many businesses in so many sectors, both Chinese and American, to have to recalibrate what they're doing. But I think in the case of the U.S. and certainly also in the case of China, I think they're playing pretty heavily to a domestic audience. So, from the case of the U.S., if poll numbers bump a little bit, maybe that's a win for the Trump campaign. I think something like this, though, would get drowned out in the noise of the next news cycle. And again, the U.S. election is not going to be won or lost on the China issue, no matter how much headline news that gets. It's going to be based on the domestic issues happening in the States right now.